Welcome back to
Dandrew.
Are we still doing that?
I don't know, honestly.
Right.
I was like, is that the intro still?
I don't know.
It's been so long.
It's been so long. Dan has a shirt again.
I have a shirt again,
Due
yes.
to popular demand.
No one needs to see these.
So
These boobs must be hidden.
today we're talking about
Adaptations and remakes a little bit,
yeah. So this was your idea.
Yes.
But I was very much into it because I think it's a very common thing to see these days.
Oh, God.
There's more remakes than there are just new
Original
stories.
things, yeah.
Or sequels or whatever. So what really inspired this genre, this topic?
I was thinking about it because I'm trying to properly write a review of the Amazon show The Boys, which is based off of the Garth Ennis comic book The Boys. And I keep thinking about it, I was like, because make no mistake, like, the comic itself is not like 100% faithful of an adaptation.
I see.
And I know there's going to be like there's going to be purists out there who are like, but that's not how he did it in the book. And it's like,
right.
You know what? The book needed a third draft probably.
Yeah.
And the show,
Right.
like, everything I watch of it, I'm like, this actually makes sense. A lot of things, because like there's a lot of stuff that I don't think Garth could really account for.
Okay.
Because he started the comic in like 2006.
Okay.
What is that? A full 2 years before the first Iron Man came out.
Right. And I mean, I know that's when the MCU started, but it really wasn't official yet because when they made Iron Man, they weren't making it in the thought process of this is the first film in the MCU. They were just like, let's make a good movie.
This will be fun.
And then once it was good and people liked it, they were like, okay, let's keep rolling.
Now we can cash in on it.
Yeah, right.
And I think that because Eric Kripke, the man who's the current showrunner of it, because he has the gift of it being the current year and just being like, okay, I can add more to this show because it's just a show about superheroes that are kind of evil.
Right.
And
well, not kind of, but...
Not kind of, but extremely
evil.
Yes.
Which I find far more realistic. I mean, I've seen other channels compare it to, like, what Zack Snyder was trying to do with DC.
Yeah.
Of, like, what if superheroes were real? Mm-hmm. It's like, The Boys kind of gets that more accurately, I think, than the
what's funny about it is because, like, you look at, in real life, like, comic sales have never been... Don't plan your retirement unless you know for a fact you're writing like nothing but Superman, basically.
Right.
And you know, in the comics world, like these superheroes exist, and there's comics written about their adventures and their exploits, which are all heavily propagandized.
Yeah.
And it's funny because in the show, I think it's like a combination of that, but they also have their own superhero movie universe about real life people.
That's very meta.
It's extremely meta. I love it. Like there's just one random little news blurb where it shows one of the actual show producers, Seth Rogen, like sitting down with one of these superheroes, like, we're so excited to be doing this movie for the VOT Cinematic Universe, the VCU. I'm like, oh my god, they're being so overt about it. I was thinking about it. I was like, what would have happened? How much more does that resonate now that just that one thing alone? Like, we haven't actually even gotten into like active things they've changed about like characters, plot, or anything like that. We're just talking like small little details that makes the universe seem more tangible. In a way.
Yeah.
And I'm like, at what point does like the adaptation start to feel like a better thing? Like I'm of the mindset like the Dark Knight series of movies. I'm like, okay, good adaptation, but the thing that always makes me kind of mad about it is like how Bruce Wayne is portrayed a little bit, because I was like, that's not really how he is in the comics. And I'm like, is that wrong of me? Or is that kind of like...
Is it just different? And then
Exactly.
The comparison comes down to, is it better or worse?
Exactly.
Because I think, as we're talking about adaptations and remakes and stuff, the important thing to note is it's not wrong to do those.
Right.
It's not bad that you have the idea of like, I want to do this story again. It's just, I think it makes perfect sense that if someone wants to remake something or reboot something, that you have to have something unique to the table to bring.
Exactly.
This is why I would defend Aladdin quite a lot more than Lion King, even though it's the same studio. You know, they're both remakes of previous cartoons, but the difference is one added to the title and one gave a new perspective, and one was just like, there it is again.
Yeah.
And
I only ever saw like the Hakuna Matata song, and I was just I was like, Donald Glover, why did you do this? Why? It hurt my soul a little bit.
Donald Glover was too good at singing for Simba because
he was too good at singing for being a cartoon lion.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not a cartoon! Okay, well, that's not a real-life lion.
Right, right. It's kind of like, if you wanted to add something to The Lion King and provide a different perspective, that'd be different, but they didn't do that. They were just like, look at what computers do!
Like, can we call Maleficent a remake? Or... Yeah. Because I was like, okay, that took...
I haven't seen the Maleficent films, but I know that it's a different perspective.
I remember watching at least the first one. I was like, okay, I'm with it. I'm feeling this.
They don't look groundbreaking, but they do look at least like someone said, what if we told the same story from a different angle? It was
fun, at least. Because it was like, okay, she's trying to be evil, but she clearly cares for this kid. Mm-hmm. And also, the king is kind of evil. And I was like, all right, I feel like I got something out of that.
Right. And I think that the Dark Knight trilogy was trying to come out of the last Batman film was which one?
Batman and Robin.
Was that the Tim Burton one? Or
that was the Joel Schumacher
one. Schumacher. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. So they were just coming off of that. Mm-hmm. So I think everyone was welcome to the idea of, what if we did a different Batman that wasn't so campy? Right. And that's where that modern kind of Joker stem from, was that.
That's another thing I actually was thinking about, because I'm looking at just the trailers alone for Joker. I'm like, okay, this is definitely not like Killing Joke, I'm like, okay, this feels good, because one of the things that I always complain about with like just watching the Killing Joke by itself, I was like, they wasted like the first half hour of this movie talking about like Batgirl and some random subplot that just kind of goes nowhere. Right. When they could have used it to kind of further expand on the Joker's origin. Because I always wanted to see that. I always wanted to see...
People are interested in that.
Ever since I ever read The Killing Joke as a book, I was like, I want to see like him bombing at stand-up and just what his average life is like. I want to see him walking through a seedy Gotham and just be like horrifically depressed and trying to keep a smile. I mean, just Joaquin Phoenix in the trailer alone, kind of just like practicing his laugh, like looking like unamused. I was like, that's beautiful. Yeah. I needed more of that.
It's a different perspective, even though we've had so many Jokers, but this is the first time he's the protagonist and from his perspective.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm like I talked about in my Joker video. I think that it's fine if you want to give new perspective to a character, as long as you can make it interesting, and different. And it does look like that's what they're doing. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that would be a good example of like, I mean, Joker's not necessarily a reboot or a adaptation. Well, I guess it's an adaptation. It's a form of adaptation.
There's so many things going on in the comic book universe.
Right.
It may as well be an adaptation.
Sure, you could say it's the Batman story without Batman.
Exactly.
Which appears to be doing really well. I mean, there's a Pennywise show. Or Pennyworth, sorry.
There we go.
Alfred. I got it mixed up.
I was like, whoa, wait, what?
That's it. Chapter 2.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking...
I was actually really surprised when I found out that there was going to be a show for Alfred. I was like, okay, I buy it.
He's like young and not a butler.
I mean, just watching Gotham.
Oh, yeah.
I loved Gotham. I still need to watch the final season. Mm-hmm. But like...
And now we have Birds of Prey after Suicide Squad. It's like they love making Gotham-based stories now, but we haven't had a dedicated Batman film since The Dark Knight Rises, really.
It's like they're just trying to like tease us into it to give us more build-up.
Theatrical film. I know there's the Killing Joke, but yeah.
But no, like just going back to Alfred for a sec, because I think I talked about this years ago when I gave my initial thoughts on it, and
go scroll for a while.
Yeah.
Go find that.
It only has about 40 views. It's trash. But I was thinking I never thought about the fact that like Alfred had to be a dad and also a bodyguard and not just someone who would bring him like egg creams or whatever rich people drink.
There's much more to him than that.
Yeah, so like when I first see Bruce Wayne being held hostage and Alfred's initial instinct is to beat the living bejesus out of them and then start shooting at people, I was like, oh god.
Yeah.
This is Alfred? Alfred's cool.
Bodyguard, butler, servant, everything just rolled into one cool character. And they hint at it in The Dark Knight as well. If you remember the story he would tell about
true. You
the
kind
ruby.
of, I never really caught that the first couple times. And then he's talking about going through Burma. It's like, wait, why is he in Burma? Was he like in the Marines or something?
Alfred was cool.
Yeah.
Alfred, sorry, was cool at one time.
Yeah. Alfred is my elf friend.
Yeah, he's my elf friend.
But like, it's really interesting. Just because it's like The Boys is the most prominent example that I can think of right off the top of my head, because I know like there's
you gotta walk it through. I know about The Boys. I haven't watched it yet, but I've heard good things. There's a book, and then there was a comic.
No, it was just a comic book.
Okay,
and then we have the TV show. That was
gotcha.
Yes.
And do you think the TV show's doing a decent job at being an adaptation?
I think that not a direct adaptation because they're changing so much, but I would say that The Boys, like Garth Ennis, who wrote it, crawled so that Eric Kripke could run with it, basically.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because there's just so much there that is like just ripe and ready for some kind of social commentary and some good satire.
But he never really picked it up.
No, it was like bogged down by his own hate for superhero. Like there's one arc in the comic book where like they're taking on knockoff X-Men, literally just called the G-Men.
That's great.
And
it's wonderful.
It doesn't really examine a lot of things besides, like, I think we could all say, guys, like, the X-Men's concept of, we're going to take a bunch of teenagers with superpowers and also put them in highly dangerous and traumatizing situations. There's a lot to examine there without having to, like, artificially enhance it with, oh, by the way, Professor X is a pedophile.
Yeah. Oh, God. Yeah.
And they all deserve to die in a horrific death. It's like, okay, you could, like, I'm not sure if Garth is someone who just does things for shock value and he's not really for that concept of, if you write the characters believably and with a more tragic backstory, they're more well written. No, his villains are always unrepentantly evil.
They're just bad.
Yeah, they're just bad because they're bad.
But if you gave some logic to it, kind of like what they're doing with the Joker movie, of like reason to the madness. You know?
Yeah,
that's what people are into.
Like there's one character from his run in the Punisher Max where like it doesn't even seem like there was any reason for this kid to be like this person was just born wrong, basically, and then he got worse from there. I'm like,
your baby with devil horns.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think a show that did a really good job building up both the protagonist and the antagonist was Daredevil.
Yeah, exactly.
Fisk, they gave him
was a fantastic villain.
Yeah, they gave him a lot of screen time to showcase why he is the way he is, and that's just when it comes to superhero shows of like it can be really satisfying when you build up both sides.
Yes,
and then they collide with each other. I think that makes it more worthwhile.
Exactly. So, and like that's the thing, I don't think Garth is necessarily a fan of that for some reason. Like he has villains that
he hates them too much.
He hates them way too much. Like some of them are acceptable. Like there's a whole arc in the Punisher where he's just taking on slave drivers from like sorry, a little bit in there, but like all they were like war criminals from like I think Bosnia or something like that. So it's not like they don't need a deep reason. They're just slave drivers who deserve to die.
Sure.
But at the same time, it's like, dude, why are they the way they are? I get it, they're evil, but can you run with it? And I can't do an Irish accent because that's where Garth is from. Yeah. But they're evil.
They're evil.
And Eric Kripke was like, no, let's examine this a bit more.
Right.
Like some of the characters, like there's maybe a couple characters in The Boys in the comic proper that actually do get that treatment of what's going on with them, but the rest are just... There's nothing to them. They're just like cardboard cutouts, basically.
I see. Yeah, it kind of sounds like a creator didn't understand what worked about his own creation.
Exactly.
George Lucas is the prime example.
Exactly. Yes. Oh my God.
Someone who created Star Wars, but then when the prequels come out, you're like, oh, you don't get it.
Yes.
You don't understand why this worked. You just created it, and then it worked, and people loved. And then all the special editions and the re-editions of like, we need to update the old original Star Wars. Everyone's like, no. You don't need to touch it. It was
great. No, it needs to be.
Right. Just leave it the way it is.
That is a perfect analogy. Oh my God.
A hypothetical would be if Leonardo da Vinci rose from the grave and then said, I'm not done with Mona Lisa.
Yeah.
I need to touch up Mona Lisa. Everyone would be like,
I would be fine with that because I think Mona Lisa is an overrated painting.
I think any painting is overrated, honestly.
Like, there's a few of them, I'm like, man, that's cool, but I don't need to see it in person. And
yeah, anytime I see people's
you
spending,
go to see that it's like all just everyone's just like
yeah
around the Mona Lisa.
They spend like
why?
millions of dollars on paintings. I'm always like, really? Millions? That's usually how I see any type of painting. There was that one painting that when someone bought it, it went and like shredded itself as soon as it sold. I was like, I respect that art. he built a frame with a shredder built into it so that if it ever sold, it would immediately just cut itself. He had like a remote that activated.
That's an interesting.
You should look up that story. I was
that's
I bet
pretty
that
awesome.
artwork is worth way more now.
That is
because
hilarious.
The artist was like, "Let's destroy it." Like respect. Yeah, but
did they at least get? Did they have footage of it getting shredded?
Yeah.
Yes, that's
you should
awesome.
look it up. It's pretty satisfying because you see all these people in the auction like,
yeah,
what just happened?
They're like,
right.
No one told us it was functional.
Anyway, that's off topic.
But no, yeah,
I can understand what you're saying about the creator versus the
and even like just thinking about like famous remakes. Like I think the most famous remake there is probably John Carpenter's The Thing.
I would say the most famous good remake.
Yeah, there you go.
There's probably some more famous remake, but
yeah,
not that good.
Or adaptations for that matter. I mean, how many times has The Great Gatsby been made into a movie?
Yeah, exactly.
All of it sucks, by the way.
Yeah.
It's just rich people.
They keep trying.
They keep trying.
But The Thing, I would say, is a classic example of like there was an original, and then John Carpenter came in and made it like iconic.
He was like, you know what? I think you guys were onto something, but you just didn't go there. So let me help you out.
Let me go all the way.
I find it funny thinking about just that movie in particular because it didn't do well at the box office, but it's just been vindicated by time.
Right.
Everyone's like, why did people not like this?
Right. Exactly. It's funny because that happens a lot. Honestly, there's I mean, not that often. Most of the time, if a movie
it happens more often than you think.
Yes.
But
But most of the time, if a movie tanks, it's probably because it wasn't very good. But more importantly, there are occasions where a movie's really good, but the studio just forgets to spend any money on marketing. So when it comes out, everyone's like, "What? The Thing? What? Whatever."
Yeah.
And another great example is Iron Giant. I think.
Yeah.
I think Iron Giant is like a classic, beloved. Everyone
thinks
back at how great it was.
Everyone who thinks this movie just is like, it's amazing. Yeah.
Right, and it like think of its role in Ready Player One. Remember when we watched that? Everyone's like, Iron Giant's in it, yay!
Yeah.
But Iron Giant
5
like
minutes.
Yeah. Iron Giant like completely flopped at the box office. Like no one saw it, even though I thought that was a really solid movie.
It was a great movie. Yeah.
So that happens a lot. But
it's interesting.
Another one's Rocketeer.
I have not watched that one, but I probably should.
I'd recommend it. Yeah, it's you'd watch it and be like, oh, this is so like heartwarming and classic. I don't know why it's not more popular.
You know what's really weird to think about? Like pre-sequels.
Prequels? Or what? Is
like
it different?
Like they're trying to be remakes, but they're also trying to be prequels. Like going back to The Thing a little bit, back in like 2011, they didn't call it John Carpenter's The Thing. They just made The Thing.
Oh, okay.
And it was like sort of a sequel, but it was also a prequel because it took place like maybe a couple days before the original movie. But it was like from the
trying to think of a mainstream example of what you're saying.
Well, okay.
Probably Rogue One.
There you go. There you go. Yes.
Yeah.
Rogue One, like kind of a mix between Rogue One and Maleficent, because it's like it's a prequel of a beloved film, and it works, but it's also a different perspective because you're not just seeing like. You're seeing them like pull this alien out of the ice, and them just being like, "What the hell is this?" Yeah. And then all the stuff that you saw, like when they go into the Norwegian camp to investigate after being like, "We just got shot at by a couple of Norwegians. What the hell's going on?" Oh, their whole camp is burned to the freaking ground.
Right.
Weird. And you actually see the chaos that ensued at the research outpost for them.
And then at the very end, it's just a dog.
Yeah, at the very end, it turns into a dog, and
I was guessing. I don't know if
that's exactly what happens.
I figured because I was like,
they don't
if it's a prequel thing, you have to like end it right where the new one starts.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
But I think that I can't remember if it was a deleted scene or if it was actually in the movie, but like it shows the two surviving Norwegians like one with the gun, just be like, "Show me your mouth," because
right.
Because they find out something new about it. And I'm like, okay, that's awesome. Because I think the hardest thing about not only a prequel but like a remake or in any form is like adding something new to it. And they did that with The Thing, because like in The Thing, you just knew, hey, it's every part of it is alive. Not like how every part of us is alive, but like you poke a hot iron into blood, it screams. And
I really like that scene.
it was a beautiful scene.
Yeah.
And then in the second one, they were like, okay, it can mimic human flesh, but it can't mimic like fillings or anything artificial. And so they use that as like identifier. Like, did you have fillings at all? As like at any point in your life? And they open their mouth like, no, okay, get over there. You might be a thing. And then it's awesome.
Don't brush your teeth.
Don't brush. Yeah, one character actually says that because it's like, so what? I'm doomed to possibly die because I floss.
Right.
Actual piece of dialogue.
Yes.
And then just thinking about it, cause going back to Pennywise, I'm like, oh man, there's so... Because the book itself is like obnoxiously long. It's like over 1,000 pages.
It's like endless rambling too.
Like, oh god.
I would never attempt to read that. But I've watched a lot of people talk about it who have read it, and they're like, this is just like nonsense with bits and pieces of good ideas. There's like, or depending on how much you like the book, you
or
could
like
say
Stephen King, yeah.
Yeah, most people could just say it is a little scrambled. It's a lot of ideas packed into one story. And the movies are kind of mainstreaming it.
They're streamlining it and making it more palpable and everything.
Yeah.
It's like,
we don't need to talk about the space turtle.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's the evil killer clown. There you go.
Yeah, let's just focus on the creepy
I gotta
clown.
look that up more, because I was like, Macroverse. Okay, interesting.
Oh, no, it gets weird.
It sounds it.
There's interesting ideas, though. I mean,
yeah.
The interesting part, I think, is the idea of a creature that like feeds off of fear.
I buy it.
And it preys on little kids because it knows they are more prone to be fearful. So it wants them to be afraid when it eats them or whatever. So it's like it's a cool idea, but
my favorite thing is like thinking about. Just as long as thinking about adaptations, like just because I like Lovecraft and thinking about adaptations of because it's like, okay, that's kind of a cop out. How do you make a movie where like you can't really show a monster because it's supposed to be so scary, it drives you insane or kills you on the spot?
Right. You could imagine some kind of like Into the Spider-Verse /
that's another great adaptation.
Caesar inducing monster that's like flashing so much at the screen.
Oh man,
it's like I could lose my mind if I saw that. That would make sense.
Cool.
But yeah, I think the reason adaptations and reboots do so well is because it's getting increasingly difficult to have original ideas that aren't just backpacking off of something you've already seen before. Right. So it's like, might as well join it. So
I want to know like how many writers like who are just like, oh, I just want to write books, or secretly like, no, I want this to be adapted into a TV show.
Yeah, right.
Because like I don't know if Neil Gaiman, when he initially wrote The Sandman and he was going to get credit for writing the character of Lucifer, if he was like hoping down the road, man, I really hope somebody makes The Sandman or Lucifer into a TV show. Yeah. He's credited as, I think, maybe not an executive producer, but his credits are in the show. And it was funny, actually, because like in one episode they had, like, it was an Elseworld alternate reality kind of episode, and they actually have him voice God. And I was like, that's appropriate. That's funny. And I was like,
that does make sense.
I was like, God's British, and I know that voice for some reason. Oh wait,
God is British.
Yeah,
or Morgan Freeman. One or the other. He could be either. Really. Depends on how God's feeling.
British Morgan Freeman.
British Morgan Freeman.
God is Idris Elba. How about that? I accept this.
Sure, that makes sense. I think that's an interesting question, though. Like, do the creators of original content want there to be adaptation? I mean, there's a lot of authors and stuff that encourage it.
Well, like, I know that a lot. I remember talking to a friend of mine years ago. He was like, I would like, if I could have a job writing only pilot episodes, I totally would, because then royalties would be amazing. I'm like, oh, that makes a lot of sense, actually.
That's a good point. That would be an interesting job position, and if you just had to come up with the first episode of a new show all the time. That's basically what J.J. Abrams does.
Yeah, and I want to know if that like applies to like original source material. Like, say you're Garth Ennis, and you're like, okay, so I wrote Preacher, The Boys, Punisher for quite a long time. You didn't invent the character, but obviously.
Sure.
So I'm curious, like, Does he get royalties off of all these shows that are being adapted from his work because he's the progenitor of it?
Probably. Not much, but probably a cut, right?
I mean, he's probably got to make at least 5 or 10% or something.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I mean, before he passed, did Stan Lee get a cut of Marvel?
I don't know.
Probably not.
I assume he just had a pension that was really sweet.
Well, I mean, he was on set. They had to pay him something.
Yeah.
They gave him a 20. Here you go, Stan. Or something like that. But I think the thing is, so many big feature films these days have so many people that work on them.
Yeah.
And they need consistent income, which means that studios these days, as depressing as it sounds creatively, have to be low risk when it comes to what they produce. Because they're like, hey, at the end of the day...
They have to make a return on their investment.
Right. At the end of the day, we got all these people. We got to pay them. Mm-hmm. And if the movie doesn't do very well, we're going to have a hard time employing them. Yeah. So that's why so many studios now rely on commonly known titles. And
did you know that's why Uwe Boll actually made so many movies for as long as he did? Because he didn't have to worry about that kind of thing. I think he just made a lot of money in another industry.
Oh, okay.
And so he's like, I want to make movies. And because of German tax law, he was actually, like, if his movie bombed, he could just write it all off and get all of it back.
It's kind of a Tommy Wiseau situation.
Pretty much. I mean, he stopped doing that a few years ago because I think they closed the loophole. And he's like, I don't want to make movies anymore. Now he's...
Now there's risk.
Yeah.
Dang it.
Well, and then all he did was make adaptations, and
right,
of video games mostly. But still, I was like, God, they sucked. But
you had the opportunity for originality.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like it's still out there. It's just you got to go to companies that are in low risk situations.
Yeah.
Like Netflix. Mm-hmm. Netflix has so much money; they were just blowing it on as many originals as possible.
At this point, I have to wonder if they're like if it's a money laundering scheme.
It could be.
Do you think someone at Netflix is Breaking Bad all over the place, and they're like, oh god, the money's got to go somewhere. Quick! Dark Crystal needs a show. Right. This help.
Exactly. Or none of the shows on Apple TV Plus look very good to me, but maybe there's some good ones. I don't know, but that would be a low risk studio because even if Apple TV Plus bombs, Apple's still $1 trillion company. They'll be okay. So they're blowing a bunch of money on things that could be good, could be terrible. It could go either way. Do we have any final words on adaptations? Or things you'd like to bring up before we wrap up?
There's quite a few good ones. Is all I
could do a whole podcast on that.
Oh, seriously,
the Dandrew podcast.
Just adaptations.
Yeah,
I'm thinking about I don't know, the original 2 Hellboy movies that Guillermo del Toro worked on.
Yep.
Those are freaking awesome.
Very
movies.
creative.
I mean, the first one is all right depending on who you are, or good again depending on. But the second one was just fantastic, and then Amazon's Jack Ryan series.
Oh, yeah.
Stellar show. John Krasinski just freaking kills it.
You like that one?
I love it. And then,
I can't detach Jim. I'm sorry.
I know. All I want now is just at least one College Humor sketch where it's Rainn Wilson working in the CIA.
He put my gun in Jello again. I'm just waiting for that one. Or they took Pam.
Seriously, though.
Something like that is too much potential.
Oh, God.
I even noticed in the season 2 trailer he has a bit of a beard now. And I'm like, yeah, they heard what I was saying about it. It's like, see, in A Quiet Place, I could get behind it because Jim doesn't have a beard. So when John Krasinski has a beard, I can separate the two. But when he's clean shaven, I'm like, no, just Jim. Especially when he works in an office. It's like, you're Jim.
Dunder Mifflin has an armed department now. It's just very fascinating to me just watching and seeing all these adaptations and thinking what liberties do you take?
Well, and it's fascinating that there's adaptations between different countries too. I mean, we just brought up The Office, which is the U.S. Office is an adaptation of the British.
Didn't we talk a couple of years ago about when Russia tried to bring over Everybody Loves Raymond?
There's a documentary about that called Exporting Raymond, which I don't think it's on any streaming services, but if you ever get the chance to watch it, I highly recommend it because Everybody Loves Raymond. You may have seen it, you may have not, but I love that show.
Yeah.
We've got all 9 seasons on DVD over there. We don't have a DVD player, but
if Drew has physical media of it, you know it's good.
That's how you know it's a good show. It's like, I cannot afford for them to take this off Netflix.
Yeah.
But they did, by the way. Either way, though, the whole documentary of them porting that over to Russia is fascinating.
Which is just interesting to me to think about. Because didn't you say that it was just like totally different worlds of humor, basically?
Oh, yeah. Russia, before Raymond, at least, at the time they were doing this, was much more into slapstick type comedy, not so much relatable, like hanging around the house type comedy, which was doing well in the US. But in Russia, everyone, even in sitcoms, would have these big, extravagant, fancy clothes. Everyone looked like they were doing a photo op, and the joke would be like, "Oh, he got slapped," or "Oh, he fell down," and the producer of that Raymond show, who kind of reminds you a lot of Ray Romano, he has that like nasally voice, and he doesn't get along with his parents and that kind of thing. But
That's
he
a
was
good impression.
Thank you. I've seen a lot. So them trying to convey that to the Russian demographic, which had never had a show like that before, was really, really interesting. So I recommend giving that a watch.
I remember reading somewhere that apparently they try to do a Russian version of Prison Break.
Oh.
But it bombed because apparently Russians, they don't care about prisoners at all. They're like, whatever, man. I don't give a...
Who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
They
fascinating.
don't care about the wrongfully accused. They're like, whatever.
And there's a lot of people that love the British office and not the American one, and vice versa.
Yeah.
You'll find a lot of people that love the American office, and then when they watch the British one, they're like, what? What? Like, we tried to watch it once, and we stuck with it for like a full season, and we were still like, this isn't good.
Yeah.
I'm not laughing at this. But the person who comes to mind is, I usually watch it with my wife, Louise. We love the American version. We don't like the British version.
Yeah.
Her dad hates the American version, loves the British version.
Wasn't he like an Aussie or something?
Yeah, he's from Australia.
Okay, that makes more sense then.
So the British office comedy is a lot funnier to him than it is to us. We just don't find it that funny. But
I'm trying to think of shows that would do well over. Me and Jacqueline have been watching Pushing Daisies again because I turned her over to the dark side.
Oh, okay.
And I keep thinking about it like a lot of this would be really good British humor actually, just because of how everything's worded.
Well, it's funny how like with streaming services available around the world, there's less shows for different countries now, I think, than there used to be.
Yeah.
Like there's just Stranger Things. Doesn't matter where in the world you are, it's Stranger Things. No one's like, we should make a Stranger Things but for the UK. You know,
yeah.
That's not a thing. Or they'd probably do it with a sitcom, not really a sci-fi show, but there's a lot of different ways you can go with adaptations, I think.
It's really weird.
After a lot of time, or sometimes during. You know, Office
Side by
was running
side.
multiple countries, different styles of comedy. It's fascinating.
All right, I think that closes up my thoughts on
That
it.
wraps it up. Maybe we'll have to do a podcast someday.
We will have to do that.
We'll probably just upload it here.
Yeah.
This is our podcast now.
This is our podcast.
The Dandrew podcast.
Two guys on the couch. Andrew.
All right. Well, I hope the background was good.
Yeah. There's a window.
I mean, we could have arranged something in the office, but as soon as there's more than one person in there, it's already crowded. So we were like, living room's fine. Anywho, thank you guys
Adios,
for
everybody.
watching. Bye-bye.